What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sunday Sports Club with Allison and Kuch, a podcast all about sports told by a woman, and that woman is me. Hi, guys. I'm Allison Kuch,
And
oh,
yeah, and she has her better half, aka the NFL player, aka why we're here. You're a wag, and that's part of the reason why we're here.
Isaac, you clearly didn't listen to the first episode because I said ever call me a wag.
Yeah, but it's quite literally just the description.
No, it is the description: wives and girlfriends of professional athletes, and I guess that's what I am. I mean, not right now because you're currently a free agent, but
Yeah,
it's the principle.
yeah.
So my husband, Isaac Rochelle, is on the podcast today, and we're going to be talking about our relationship and football over the past 7 years because we met 10 years ago this year.
Which is 10 years is a super long time. Think about when Scotty's 10 years old, like how much time that is.
Oh my gosh.
And we've had that relationship. Like a 10-year-old that you're like, wow, that kid's grown.
We met when we were just babies, and Isaac wasn't, I feel like the NFL wasn't even a thought when we first met. Maybe a thought.
No, I really, it wasn't a thought. Like, it honestly wasn't.
So we're going to start this podcast by taking you guys all the way back to 2014, December, when Isaac and I first met.
Wow, that's a long time ago. I'm just still caught on that. But yeah, so we met, what date? When did we actually meet? 12, 13, 14, right?
Yeah, 12, 13, 14, which is a cute date. That's the only reason I remember. But I was going to school at Michigan State. Isaac was going to school at Notre Dame, and I was in town at Notre Dame visiting for the weekend.
And I wasn't one to go out at all. Like I never was stepping out doing things, wasn't like drinking, none of that. But I did know if you hosted a recruit, they gave you $80. So this was like pre NIL. Like if you, that was the only way I could make money. It was hosting recruits. So I would literally be like, I will host 5 recruits. Like,
Wait, did you get $80 for each recruit?
Yes, I would be taking. They would give them the money. I'd be like, give me that money. I'll control. I'll be banker. So either way, I was
You're like, we're getting McDonald's for dinner.
Yeah. But I never went out, but I knew I had to take these guys out because I was hosting. I went to a party and Allie happened to be there.
Yeah, so we met at a college party at Notre Dame, and
Not saying much, but
honestly, it was kind of love at first sight. I feel like our first conversation was about love and how, we briefly knew each other. I'm not going to get into how we kind of knew each other. I'll just say it. Isaac's ex-girlfriend was friends with my sister, but I had never met
ooh,
Isaac.
it feels messy.
It's not.
There's a lot of exes in this story.
Yeah, there are.
Like everything that brought us together deals with an ex.
Yeah.
For all parties.
The reason I was at Notre Dame was because of my sister's ex.
It's getting
juicy.
It's piping hot. I love some juice. I'm gonna back up before I
But
get too far.
back to our story. So I had known of Isaac, but I didn't really know too much about him. I had never talked to him. I just saw him on Instagram and was like, oh, he's super cute, tall, dark, and
I don't
handsome.
know why I was looking like I still look like a scrub, but then I was like, wow, this is Andre the Giant.
Well, just me being 5'11", I'm always going to be attracted to anybody that's taller than 6 feet tall. Not saying that was my only quality I was looking for, but Isaac and I struck up a conversation. I asked him to take a shot with me. He said no. Long story short, our first conversation was all about love and the meaning of love. And so he then ended up taking me out on a date a few days later.
No,
that was the next day.
It was the next day. I was so lame. The only reason why we went on a date is because I was so exhausted from studying, and I was like, I'm so exhausted from studying, and you were like, why don't you take a break and come on a date? I didn't even ask Allie on the first date.
I was like, this guy's cute and I need to take this opportunity. But we had also talked about love the first time we were...
A true gold digger. A true wag.
Okay. Are we going to act like you were good in college at that point?
I started almost the whole season. I was not what I am now. Even though I'm jobless.
Anyways,
but yeah.
So he takes me on our first date to Starbucks to get coffee. We sit and talk for 5 hours, and the man has the audacity not to give me a kiss at the end of the date. So here I am thinking, oh my God, this is like a guy I want to start dating. Like he's so cute and cool, and we can just talk to each other. And then he drops me off and no kiss. Do you have anything to say?
I'm not even going to get into it. everybody's different how they handle that. I mean, we're 19. Are people just making out on the first date when you're 19? This isn't The
You
Bachelor.
took
This
me
is
on a
like
date.
no, I'm not even
But
I yeah,
thankfully, Isaac ended up sending a text message to me that was originally meant for his brother
this was
saying that he met
embarrassing.
his wife.
Yeah, it was bad. I just didn't go out at the time at all, so the fact that I went out and then met Allie, I was like, "Hey, bro, I never go out," and then I met this girl, like, she's definitely gonna have D1 babies, like, she's the one.
Isaac, you
I
did
didn't say
not think about
I
that.
didn't say that, but I seriously was like, "I really, really love this girl already, and I don't even know her," and I accidentally sent it to Allie, but it played because she was excited about it.
I was excited. So then we start talking. He finally does give me a kiss in the McDonald's parking lot. What a place to have a first kiss.
Honestly, hon
I'm
it's
picturing the McDonald's in my head. But then a few weeks later, he made it official and he asked me to be his girlfriend at his bowl game. And if you guys aren't familiar, in college, you have football bowl games, which is kind of like just like a playoff. It's not a playoff game. It's just like the last
it's
game.
yeah, it's just like yeah.
And yeah, you asked me to be your girlfriend, and now we have a baby, but we're
It's come a long
missing
way from not having a first kiss on the first date
we're missing
to
a few
having a
steps though.
child.
Yeah, it's things have gotten they're
Wow.
escalated. So after Isaac asked me to be his girlfriend at the Music City Bowl, obviously we started dating, and he had two more college football seasons at Notre Dame while we were dating.
Wow.
So we were doing long distance because I went to Michigan State,
Two
Isaac
and a
went
half
to Notre
hours away, though, it's not
2.5 hours, yeah. So I honestly everyone would ask me, "Oh my gosh, how is it being in a long distance relationship?" I personally loved it because I got to focus on myself and be independent and hang out with my friends when I was at Michigan State. And then when I was at Notre Dame, I really got to be at Notre Dame and like not have to worry about splitting time between Isaac and my friends. I think it was honestly great. I highly recommend a long distance relationship, but you have to have a lot of
oh,
trust.
yikes. I highly don't recommend a long distance relationship.
Oh my God.
I feel like it's just way easier. I agree with you. It was nice to have my space and for you to have your space, but
Whoa. I wasn't saying I liked my
not
space.
space, but like you're right to have weekends where I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like go out with the
Yeah.
homies or like if I want to sit around, like that was nice. But it is difficult, and it got even more difficult when I went to the NFL because we were cross country long distance,
Yeah.
which is brutal.
Honestly, I loved being a college football girlfriend. Like, I wore the cute jersey. I
Yeah,
liked
and you went to a different school, so it was like cool that you were like dating somebody from Notre Dame, which was a
and
big deal in
I
Michigan.
brought my friends to some games. I brought
Yeah, that
my
was
family to
fun.
some games. So, my family is from Michigan. My parents would always drive down. We had so much fun. And my dad, I don't think he ever wore a Notre Dame jersey. I think he always wore Michigan State. But it was so much fun having like the differentiation between like my college experience and then incorporating like Isaac's football career. I just thought it was a lot of fun.
I wish we'd have spent more time at Michigan State though.
Really.
Yeah.
I do love Notre Dame, although I'm always gonna root for Michigan State, but
Who was the Michigan State head coach?
oh, fuck, I don't remember. Isaac, don't do this to me on my podcast.
Yeah,
That's
well, isn't it
disrespectful.
D'Antonio? I actually don't know.
Yeah,
It's
Mark D'Antonio. So then Isaac and I are doing long distance back and forth during his football career in college. And I don't know, I loved it. I think it was cool. I feel like a huge reason I had a lot of trust in our long distance relationship was because you were busy with football. So I never had to worry about you cheating because you were too busy to even text me back.
boys were extra busy. I mean, because the thing is in college, which it's very different in pros, you have the season and then you have spring practice, and obviously you have classes and you have morning workouts every single day. So it is like it's a lot.
Yeah. So I got to trust you. It was fun.
Yeah, boys were down
I was
bad.
never wondering where you were. I was like, what time is it? Okay, he's at practice. What time is it? Okay, he's at team lifts or
I
whatever.
also was very much a home like I was like a homebody.
You
Like
were
I
really,
was
you were
just
real. I mean, you're a good guy, so I had got to trust you anyways.
I was yeah, I was
But
chilling.
then you start training for the NFL.
The NFL. So basically, what happens is you become a draft prospect as soon as you are eligible or you graduate. So I had the decision to go to Atlanta, Arizona, or Dallas to train. And I ended up going to Arizona to train. And that's like where you officially start the NFL journey because you have the NFL combine, you have college all star games. What else is there?
Pro day.
Pro day, all these things. So you train for those, but you're not yet in the NFL. It's like an in between stage.
And during this stage, you're really poor.
Literally no money. I mean, I got a stipend though. So agencies, it's actually like a negotiation tactic. Like they'll negotiate the stipend that they give you.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's crazy. Like they give some guys so much money for no reason. But they give you a little bit of money, but you're really just like eat, sleep, train. That's it. That's all you do.
Yeah, so Isaac was training in Arizona and I was still at Michigan State because obviously I have to finish college. I can't just follow my NFL boyfriend. So then fast forward to April. April, Isaac and his family, my family, some of our friends all fly out to New York just to celebrate Isaac getting drafted to the NFL. The draft wasn't held in New York. It was,
It was just as my agency was there.
yeah.
But like you go through all this stuff. So right when you graduate college or you enter the NFL draft, you get a rating. Like where are you going to get drafted? How good are you, etc. I was ranked like relatively high and then went through all these things and my grade kept getting lower and lower. I actually don't know why.
Wait, really? I did not know this.
Yes, I also had 1 sack my senior year in college, which was brutal for me. So, essentially, when we got to draft day, I'm looking at my agents and they're like, "Yeah, dude, like you're gonna go 3rd or 4th round at the latest. Couldn't see you dropping into the 5th round."
Uh, Yikes.
I ended up going 7th round, which I'm happy I got drafted, but that was
And happy you got
crazy.
drafted to the place you went because your NFL journey could have been so different.
Yes, could have been so different. But the point is that starts the NFL energy. Like that is like that defines your NFL career in a lot of ways where you get drafted. The higher you get drafted, the more security you have. The
Mhm.
lower you get drafted, the less security you have. So for me, that was like a pivotal point in my career. And think about us, we're dating. We had been dating two
Yeah.
and a half years, and we don't know. I could go play for the Lions and be 20 minutes from Allie, or I could go to literally the farthest possible team,
Which ended up happening.
which was the San Diego Chargers, really. That's the
Yeah.
farthest I coulda went away.
Here I am still at Michigan State, and my boyfriend gets drafted to the furthest possible place he can get drafted. I'm like, oh, long distance to Notre Dame, that's 2.5 hours. No, now long distance to California,
3 hours
5 hour
time difference.
drive.
Like, forget the time difference is brutal.
It is. And it's crazy. And I'll tell this short little story. But so we're in New York celebrating Isaac's drafting, and round one goes by. Okay, he doesn't go get drafted.
Wasn't expecting
Round
to.
two and three are on the second day, doesn't get drafted. Round four, five, six, and seven are on the third day. And if not,
Mm,
then you're a free agent. You can talk with teams and whatnot. So around
5.
five, Isaac starts freaking out. We're having to do damage control. We're thinking, okay, he's going to go undrafted, which is okay. Isaac was about to sign as a free agent with
The Bears.
Chicago, which is a 3 hour drive from Michigan State.
I don't know if anybody understands the feeling of, like, your whole professional career riding on one or at least starting it on one particular day in one moment, and you have everybody there staring at you.
And just waiting for a phone to ring because during the NFL draft, that's essentially what you're waiting on, just your phone to ring and somebody to call you and say, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this team?" I mean, I feel like you can go and search it on TikTok, like all these reactions to people finding out they're drafted and crying and like whatever. It just wasn't that experience.
It was just gross, and then, like, because every pick that comes in, like, you're kinda like, everybody's looking at you to see how you react after
Mhm.
you saw the pick. Also, when you do get drafted, you're gonna get a phone call, like, a couple picks before. Like, you're gonna know watching that your name's
Yeah.
about to get called, but you don't know that
You know what?
until
Maybe we should leave this for an NFL draft story.
yeah. The point is, I was down bad, but it was justified.
So Isaac ends up signing with the Los Angeles Chargers. And how soon after did you fly out?
It
Pretty
was
soon
2 weeks. It
after.
was 2 weeks.
Oh,
Because remember
okay.
we went to Georgia?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was 2 weeks.
So then Isaac ends up like preparing to go out to Los Angeles for camp and everything. And I was like, well, I'm staying here. Like, there was no decision between you and me, like, oh, maybe you should move with me or maybe you should follow me.
Wow, you
There
had
was
school.
there was no conversation. Yeah. So I was still at Michigan State.
The whole thing was crazy because this kinda takes us into my first year. Allie had to do a 5th year. Like,
Yeah.
I had to start my NFL career, and you were just, like, still in school, which is kinda
Ew.
mind blowing when you think about it. Like, me being just like there's dudes who are I played with Philip Rivers. He has
Yeah.
8 kids, and I'm like, "Yeah, my girlfriend is still in college." Like, that's crazy. He was 37.
He's like, "I have, like, 6 children,
He's like,
and here you
"College?"
are, like, one of his kids could have been older than me, we don't know."
Yeah,
They
you guys
weren't.
woulda I'm, like, doing the math, like,
No, so, yeah, that was a really interesting experience, like, being a college student and then having my husband no, wait, my boyfriend, that's so weird saying, but having my boyfriend be in the NFL. So, I, as, like, a super senior, I didn't have a huge course load, so I made sure to only have classes on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and I would leave Thursday night, take a flight out of the East Lansing airport, super small airport, have a bunch of, it was definitely not nonstop, have a bunch of layovers in different places, and then be in LA for the weekend, and then fly back in time for class on Monday. Oh, I would
brutal.
I would make it so I would leave immediately after class and get in, literally go from the airport to class.
So,
Somehow I passed.
a lot of people don't know this about Allie, but Allie's always hustled. Like, I'm talking if there's a way,
Yeah.
she's gonna randomly find a way to hustle, but Allie had I mean, you were making so much money on Redbubble, which
I didn't like the idea of relying on a man for anything, or my parents. Like, my parents were like, "Oh, like, do you need any help with money?" Which I'm super blessed to have parents that were able to do that. But I loved the idea of me being able to pay for my own flights, pay for my own food, pay for all of my stuff. And I knew that I wasn't able to get a typical 9 to 5 job because I wanted to prioritize our relationship
well, and
because
yeah, and you were in school.
I feel like a huge thing about being with a professional athlete, and that's even weird to say, but a huge thing about being with a professional athlete is as the girl, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. If you're a guy dating a professional athlete, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. And one way that I had to sacrifice is I knew that I wasn't able to get a typical 9 to 5 job
Mhm.
while I was in college because college already took up so much of my time. And then if I got a job on top of that, how am I going to explain to an employer, hey, I can only work Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, but like Tuesday evenings and then Thursday mornings? So
You could have been like, "My boyfriend's in the NFL."
nobody cared. So I ended up finding my own way to make money. And that
Side
was
hustle.
through being a graphic designer freelancer on this website called Redbubble. And I would just get commissioned and like they would handle all like the shipments and everything. I would literally just upload my art and it would get sold on various items. And I ended up making like a
Dang.
lot of money on that.
The
So that's how I was able to afford to go to LA every weekend.
Yeah, that's the point that I was gonna make. So Allie was affording this lifestyle of being in college, but also coming to visit me. Also, why would you not wanna go visit California? I mean, at this point, you hadn't spent a lot of time in
I had never
California.
been to California until Isaac was drafted there.
So, yeah, why would you that's crazy. That
And
is
now we live
crazy
here.
because it's such a cool place, and the fact that you had never been, like, what I
Yeah.
would do to have that feeling again
So
coming here for the
then
first time.
I'm traveling back and forth, seeing Isaac. He's like kind of introduced to this whole new NFL world. Isaac ends up getting cut on the first week of his NFL career. So he gets put on practice squad. And I just feel like you were in a really weird place
That sent me
because
into a spiral.
financially you didn't have a ton of money. And then your like signing bonus. Did you even have a signing bonus?
So
It
I
taxes and like
I had an $80,000 signing bonus, and then I signed a $460,000 deal. So I like was like, "Oh, like this is gonna be like what I make this year," and then literally made the team and got cut the next week, which was a dagger because mentally your whole universe is shattered. You go from having nothing to that, and then back to in your mind nothing.
yeah.
So it was very difficult and it was tough on our relationship. Definitely put a strain on our relationship to the point that when I went out to visit Allie after the season, we actually
Ended up taking a break.
yeah. I think we were in just such different life places. Like,
So Isaac finishes his first year in the NFL. I'm still in college. I'm about to graduate college, and I think it was February 2018
yeah.
that we end up taking a break because we were in such different life places with Isaac being in the NFL, him being in this like professional world. Well, the NFL is not really that professional, but you understand what
Mhm.
I'm saying. A different world. And here I am just like still in college, still like going out, going to bars, like
Yeah.
just kind of fucking around and not really knowing what it means to be like worried about your income because I mean, I was still in college.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, like, just doing a true year of long distance
Yeah, because I
was
mean,
just
5-hour flight,
like it
tough.
was yeah, it's just it was took a toll. It was a lot. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, people are like, "Oh, I'm doing long distance," and in my mind, I'm like, "That is brutal."
Yeah.
Even it's not, but it is.
And I just feel like doing long distance at Notre Dame was so different because we were in the same life places. But when you were in the NFL and I was still in college, and then put long distance into that, you were on a different trajectory and I was in a different trajectory. And when we would hang out, we would be in different life places. And then we started to get like codependent on each other to like make each other feel better. And it just honestly was, I don't even think it was toxic. I just think it was like not good for the both of us. Like we were too dependent on each other for our emotions. And so Isaac and I decided to take a break in our relationship
Mm.
and it ended up lasting for 4 months. And then at the end of the 4 months, we had a trip planned to Bali, Indonesia. Who takes a break out of their relationship with the knowing you're going to have a trip to Bali, Indonesia in 4 months?
I don't
We
even think
did.
we thought about it. We planned so
Well, no, we said goodbye and we're like, "Okay, well then, next time we talk, I guess is gonna be in Thailand."
I feel like
Wait,
we
is that
kinda
Thailand?
agreed to it to be like, "No, it's
It's Indonesia.
Indonesia."
What am I
Yeah.
saying? No, we got pregnant in
That's
Thailand.
mom brain. Yeah, I feel like we were like, "Oh, let's break up," and, like, a good point of reference to, like, work it out and, like, come to a conclusion would be that trip. And then when you came out to California, it was like,
Mhm.
no, it's, like, still not kind of
So, I think the break was really good for us. I feel like that could be its own episode too, just, like, taking a break because of the NFL. The NFL had a huge part in why we took a break just because of the long distance and,
thanks,
like,
NFL.
growth. But then when we got back together, it was different in a good way. Like, I feel like our break made me wanna be even more independent than I already was.
Yeah,
So
actually, it was a turning point in our relationship, and it kinda brings us to the next point. The next phase of our relationship were the glory days.
well, it's funny because we didn't talk our entire break. We didn't talk the entire time we were broken up until we went to Bali,
Mhm.
and the day before we went to Bali, I actually came out to California and after not talking to him for months, and I was like, "Actually, I have a job interview in LA, so, like, do you mind if I use your car?"
I'm like,
And I
"Allie, I'm
drove an
literally in the
hour
off
up
season."
to LA, and I was like, "Okay, like, I'm gonna do this job interview," and at that point, you didn't even know I was applying to jobs in California because I was in Michigan. So this is where people are gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, you definitely followed your NFL boyfriend." But at the time, we weren't even dating, so how am I gonna follow well, I guess that's kinda even creepier that I was
Yeah, you were weird, and you're older than
Yeah.
me, so that's, like, even
I was like, "I'm
weirder.
4 months older than you."
So yeah, you definitely came out, and I remember being caught super off guard when you were like, "I'm going to interviews," and because
So
we just hadn't talked about I mean, we hadn't
yeah.
talked.
So here's the thing is that when Isaac had first gotten drafted to California, I was like, wait, California is the best place because my degree is in interior design and interior architecture. And I was like, oh, wait, this sounds great. Like California is the best possible place to go for that, especially when it comes to residential design. And that's what I wanted to do. So when we broke up, I was like, well, now I can't go to California. Like, if we stay apart, or am I not allowed there? And I was like, no,
Am
like,
I not
why?
allowed? Am I
Like, two
banned
people
from
can live in the
California?
same state. And I did know that when we took our break, we did have the plan to get back together. That was like our goal was to get back together. So knowing that in the back of my head, I was like, okay, I hear I can make another sacrifice. Although moving to California, I wouldn't really
It
say
was
is a
yeah, it's super
sacrifice.
nice.
So I ended up applying to jobs in California, Colorado, and I think like Florida, just like places that I could live because I did not want to stay in Michigan. I just wanted to get out as soon as possible. And
You're not a Michigan girly, but,
no,
like, you literally are.
okay, I don't know what that means. So, the day before we go on our trip where we're broken up, I
Yikes.
accept a job offer for a job in Los Angeles for when I graduate, like literally 2 weeks after I graduate.
Yeah, it definitely threw me for a loop, but
But I
I
didn't
was
give you a choice because I was like, okay, if we're broken up, then it's fine. I'm still going to have this job because for those of you who don't know, the Los Angeles Chargers were actually kind of like the Orange County Chargers because their
which is
facility
awesome.
was here in Orange County. And I was like, okay, that shouldn't be a problem. Then me moving to LA, I ended up moving to Los Angeles, Santa Monica,
So we
and
kinda went back to long distance.
I got a roommate. But this was the first time where we were close enough to like get dinner or like have a spontaneous like coffee date in the morning. And I feel like this actually was the best, like you said it, like
It was
the
the glory days.
these were the glory days because we were falling back in love with like these new improved people that we're now so much more independent from each other. I was like, "Oh, you want to go out with your friends? Okay, well I'm going to go out with my friends." We
We
had
had a good
different
flow.
yeah, we had a really good flow, and that
Well, it's
helped our relationship kind of flourish. And you also, the second year you were in the NFL, you had the best year.
yeah, yeah, I definitely did, and I think it was nice because I was in my best version football-wise, and then you could go to the games and, like, be a part of it,
Yeah.
and, like, go to every game and travel to away games and do all these things, and we were having an incredible season.
And I wasn't relying on Isaac's NFL money. I was paying for all of these things out of my wallet because I had a job in LA
Yeah.
that I loved. I had coworkers that I was friends with,
Yeah, you went to
and
the London game and, like did I even get your hotel? I did, I got your
you
hotel.
paid for my hotel, but I bought the flight. I bought all of my food, all my drinks, and everything, and like you bought my tickets.
I love how you include drinks in there. You're like, "I paid for my drinks." Like, I wasn't going out with you, but yeah, I don't know. That it was definitely the glory days because that was kinda like the phase where, like, our NFL life, like, really settled in, where Allie was feeling like a true wag, even though we don't like the term.
I was, but I wasn't because I had differentiated myself from other girls or wives around the Chargers. Actually, fun story.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna get juicy because the
I
NFL wives real quick, the Chargers NFL wives
There were a group of
then
bougie ones and a group of like,
but, like, ultra bougie, like, one of them was on the show Wags,
yeah.
like, ultra bougie.
So I was at one of Isaac's football games. I'm new to Los Angeles, but I have a job. And Sunday, we're all hanging out. We're tailgating in the family parking lot where all the family members park, whatever. And a woman pulls me aside. She goes, "Oh, hey, you're new here. You
Oh,
just
I know.
moved."
This is
And
crazy.
yeah, my husband said that you just moved here. Welcome to the team. Happy to have you here. So like, what are you up to? And I was like, "Oh, I have a job. I live in LA. We actually don't even live together yet." Yada yada yada. She goes, "Job? Why? He's in the NFL, sweetie. Quit." I was like, "Wait, what?"
That woman went on to make some crazy remarks to us later on in life,
Yeah.
which we won't get into. But again, it was interesting though because like there was such a
That was the first time I'd ever thought in my head, like, oh, people quit their job to follow their NFL significant other because having a job when you're with a professional athlete is not easy. And
it's super
that's
tough.
something I'm excited to talk about on this podcast when I have other guests on, especially from like NHL and MLB, because especially your career the past 2 years, how am I supposed to keep or maintain a job that's stationary?
I mean, you literally
It's
cannot.
impossible.
You can't, but you made it work. It's crazy too
I
because
did.
at this time that you had how many followers on so I don't you
Like
didn't have
1,000 or
I don't even think you
2,000.
had 1,000 on Instagram. You and TikTok didn't exist. So
TikTok
this was
did,
like
yeah.
pre any of that.
Mhm.
And then I had no followers. Like this was just like very
This was yeah,
we're
I was
just
just
living
going
life.
to my normal job that I loved. I was doing interior design and you were playing
Just playing.
football, and honestly, the 4 years he played at the Chargers, I am so great though that those have my favorite memories of the NFL, and
It was the
maybe
glory I mean,
yeah.
literally was the glory
I
days.
mean, everybody just stayed in California year round. Isaac, you and I never worried about you getting cut. We would host gatherings on the national infamous cut day and just have a party and be like,
I
"Oh, woohoo, 53, like here we go." Meanwhile, people are crying.
I would like forget that it was cut
We were
day. Like
so
I would
ignorant.
well, and like I don't mind saying this because the year that I was doing this, I went on to have 6.5 sacks, had a great year. like we were drunk on cut day. Like we were not,
Yeah.
it was like, who cared? Like we just
We were
finished
hanging out at
training
the
camp.
pool.
Like, let's go to the pool, let's drink. We are chilling. Very different story as
We've
my career.
lived
I mean, I don't have a
yeah.
job right now. So it's very
We've
different.
lived so many lives, and that's why I feel so okay with talking all about football in every capacity because there have been high highs and low lows. And with the Chargers, it was a lot of high highs. Going on, I mean, you had a great season your second year in the NFL, and eventually you and I made the decision to move in together,
Yeah.
which was Isaac was like, "Okay, you're gonna pay half a rent," and I did.
Well, until she stopped paying the rent because she was like, "You should have been proposed." Because you said the only way I'll move in is if you propose within 6 months,
Yeah,
and we lived together for a
I don't think
year
that's a
and
bad thing
some
to
change.
say. Those were my standards. I don't wanna give you milk for free. I want you to buy the cow.
Mm, that's
And here I
that's
am
a
now.
weird
Now I'm a
comparison with a
fucking
baby.
cow because here I am milking myself for your daughter.
Yeah, but COVID hit, and so then the timeline got all tore up.
Yeah. So Isaac and I were living together when COVID hit. Thank the Lord, because my job, my like typical good old
Can you imagine if you'd have been
job.
living in LA?
Oh my gosh, no. But so thankfully we lived together when COVID hit, and Isaac and the NFL, they didn't stop going. I mean, the NFL takes no breaks. And my job did take breaks because it wasn't necessary. So I worked as an interior designer in staging homes before they get sold. I loved it so much. I had so much fun, but it was something that wasn't like necessary. So it got shut down the first few weeks of COVID. And
Yeah, you were just at
I
the crib.
and around this point I decided to what's it called? At this point, I decided to protest. And I was like, I'm no longer paying 50% of rent.
You're
You
like, I'm
make
on
$1 million
furloughed.
a year and I make not
I
$1 million.
wasn't I wasn't making that type of money then, but before we get into the COVID talk where our lives really changed because we switched teams and you blew up, all this stuff, I wanna get back to the glory days thing because by the end of my time with the Chargers, right before COVID hit, the Chargers had went to Allie and they were like, "Hey,
Yeah.
can you host a podcast for us?" And, like, I was so intertwined with it, like, from the top down
Yeah.
with the Chargers. They had drafted me as a 7th round draft pick, and I went on to start and, like, be really good for them.
An
So
honorary captain.
they were like bought in to just our lives. Like we had great relationships with these people. You
Yeah.
have to imagine like the NFL circle is so small that like it could be the social media person. Shout out Megan. She's still there doing a great job. You get close with them because you
Oh,
see them
yeah.
everywhere. They're trying to get to know the wives. So we were at the peak of that.
Like, this is whenever I think about missing the NFL and like how it used to be, this is the part that I miss is the Los Angeles Chargers era because it was like a family. And the Los Angeles Chargers are owned by a family who were in and around.
Who we had a great
We
relationship
literally
with.
lived in the same apartment complex as
One of the well grandkids of the
yeah.
owners, but
But
you
it was so family oriented. And when SoFi Stadium came out and there was this new stadium, Susie Spanos took us on a tour of the stadium and it felt like such a family team. And we had so many great memories. And everybody that Isaac got drafted with stayed there for all 4 years. Being an NFL wife, everybody asked me, oh, like what team do you want your husband to play for? What team do you want him to go to? What's the dream team? I would love for him to go back to the Chargers just because I know that Isaac's time in the NFL isn't that long, like
Mhm.
literally stands for not that long. And I just would love to end like our cute little NFL story back at the Chargers, but I know I can't make that decision.
What's my one thing that I always say to the Chargers if they're listening?
I will play for free. Isaac will play for
I will
free.
play for absolutely nothing. I will go back and retire as a Charger.
I
Like
think,
that
yeah.
I can do. I could hit them up and be like, I want to act like
Yeah.
day contract. That'd be fun. So at this point, COVID hits, whatever, we get engaged.
I started to think more as me and Isaac as a team at this point.
I
Team.
mean, we were quite literally
Because we were
like
about to get married.
our lives were so intertwined. We got a dog. Like we're in it.
Aw,
We're
Frankie.
in it.
Yeah, so
Um,
once we got engaged, I decided to sit down with Isaac and talk about my career outside of just being his wife because I never thought, hey, once I get married to him, I'm going to quit my job and I'm just going to hang out at home until we have babies. And then once we have babies, I'm going to be a mom and that's all I want to do. Although I do love being a mom and I take a lot of, what's it called?
Pride
Pride.
and being a
I take a lot
homemaker.
of pride. I'm not a homemaker, but I take a lot of pride in my
You
daughter and our family. But I knew that I didn't ever just want to be a stay at home. Nothing wrong with that. I just know for myself, I wouldn't survive unless I had something outside of the
I
house.
don't think either of us would survive.
I think we are just like competitive people. And so we wanted something to be competitive in, which led me to after we got engaged, this sounds weird. It sounds like I had bad intentions. But after we got engaged, I had the conversation with Isaac where I wanted to focus on getting an Airbnb, a short term rental property that I could devote all my time to designing. And that would be our source of income from me because I didn't know how long he was going to be in Los Angeles. And if we moved to, let's say, Wisconsin, I don't know that I'm going to be able to get an interior design job there. I'm sure there's interior designers there, but none, like nothing that I was hoping for, like when it comes to my dreams. So I'd always dreamt of owning and designing an Airbnb. And so we had that conversation.
Allie also was an avid YouTube poster, and she was
Yeah.
kind of pursuing that full time because that's when you had just got to the point where I think you might have made like $1,000 in a month.
I made him $1,000
And we were both kind of like, wait, what would this look like if you just
if I
full
made it my
sent?
full-time job.
So, and you hated your commute to LA.
I used to commute 2.5 hours to work and then 2.5 hours home. Like when people call me a gold digger,
Mm,
I'm sorry, no gold diggers are doing that. I'm gold digger, more like gold digger.
that's gold digger. So at that point, we kind of made a crucial decision as a couple
Yeah.
to like pursue
Invest in each
this.
other's dreams basically. So Isaac obviously had like some money in the bank to help me out with my dream. I actually had saved a lot of money from me working in LA and I also had randomly a lawsuit that was finally solved and I
It's
decided to
so
take all
random.
my lawsuit money, all of my savings money. I mean, I had 3 jobs at one point. I was a photographer for real estate. I was
Forgot about
working on
that.
Havenly and I was working at my interior design job. Like I was
And
busting my
Redbubble was
ass.
still
And
bringing it.
Redbubble is still bringing him
Redbubble was
Redbubble
still
is still
checks are
bringing him
cashing.
money right now.
So
But so I was like trying my best to save up all this money so I could do it independently, but Isaac was like, "Well, hello, like I want to invest in you too. Like you're out here like helping me achieve my dreams. I want you to help you achieve yours." So I technically paid for the house, like the down payment of the house, and Isaac paid
thank you.
for the renovations. I
Yeah.
just have to say that, although Isaac's name your name was just on the deed because I still don't have good credit.
Yeah.
I
It is
don't
what
even
it
own a
is.
credit card.
So
Does anybody how do you increase your I'm starting from
credit
0 in
scores are
credit.
so dumb. That's not what we're going to talk about, but it's the dumbest concept in the world.
Can you imagine if somebody just tunes into Sunday Sports Club and they're like, "We're talking about credit scores?"
We're a catch-all podcast, and I say we, it's Allie's. But what I was going to say is, so at this point, this is where everything changes for us because it's COVID. This random app that nobody's heard of came along called TikTok.
And
Eh,
I had just quit my job
So it's like
to be an Airbnb owner.
that's where everything changed. If you're listening to this podcast, you know Allie's story about calling her a gold digger, and then they started calling me a gold digger, and now I'm Mr. Kuch.
Mhm.
The point is, all that happened at the perfect time for you to have more time and space to be creative because you had already explored creative outlets.
Yeah.
Also, this was the first time in our career post this 2020 season, which was my 4th season, going into my 5th season where I was going to a different team.
Yep.
So all these stories, horror
All these
stories,
things are happening though. Like all of these things are happening at like the perfect tornado time, which ended up leading to me gaining a following on social media.
hundreds of thousands of followers, but it was like
Well, millions, Isaac.
these these things that Allie is now so well known for showcasing the chaos, the like my tumultuous NFL career. It happened at the perfect time when it like if TikTok would have happened 2 years later, we probably would have been a little late. If it would have
Yeah.
happened 2 years earlier, like, okay, cool, he's been on the same team, whatever. It was like the perfect storm. Also, I was
Well, I was gonna say it's kinda crazy that social media came around when it did, because if you have been following me on TikTok for the entire time I've been on TikTok, you would think that Isaac's career has been chaotic through the
oh,
NFL,
that's true. I didn't even think about
but the
that.
majority of his time in the NFL has actually been very chill, even
That's
keeled,
crazy.
stagnant. For the first 4 years, we were never concerned, we were never worried. I felt comfortable getting my own apartment in LA, never thinking, "Oh, Isaac ended up may get cut, and then I'm just here in LA by myself." So it's so
That's
crazy
kinda
to think
crazy
that,
to
like,
think
the
about.
4 years before social media was so chill and enjoyable, and
Yeah.
which is why I love the NFL so much, because those are my favorite memories. The NFL has been more of a roller coaster ride over the past few years, but I'm grateful that social media has been around, because I feel like this is the story that people wanna see. Nobody gives a fuck that Isaac didn't get cut for 4 years. Like, it just doesn't tell a good story.
It doesn't. So,
So
thankfully,
thank you for getting
I was
cut so I
miserable
could tell a
going
good
in. Yeah.
story.
So the point is, we're engaged. We get married that off season. We have a beautiful wedding. But like again, this was like the point in our lives where like our marriage and our lives were very challenged by the NFL because we're having to move
Yeah.
every year. And so like the way it works is people go places for the off season. So like
If you're
you,
in the NFL, you probably own an off-season home,
yeah,
unless you're in the first few years.
and we hadn't had to do that because we were in Southern California. Why would you leave? So this was the first time now where we're like moving 2 to 3 times a year minimum.
Mhm.
I went through a string of teams where I hated playing for them, and
I wanna say that this year was actually pretty hard, just, like, now here I am, I'm your wife, and I have this is the first time that I had moved for Isaac's career, that I had to say goodbye to all my friends, everything I knew, my comfortability, and something I had held on up until this point was my independence and, like, me really being myself outside of our marriage, and now here I am living in Carmel, Indiana, in the middle of nowhere,
Westfield
literally
even worse. What
cornfields are in my front yard, and I'm having to move to this new place where I'm having to make new friends and having to really this is my first time I'm really put in an uncomfortable situation, because this is the first time I'm having to follow Isaac.
this was the first time Allie had to follow me,
But we were married.
but was generally unhappy with where we were living. Like it was
Yeah.
not tight. And
I
then
I I was gonna say I was unhappy, like, I didn't like the idea of moving to Indiana, but we were so excited about it because this
we
is your
got a
first
house
big contract. We had bought our first house.
and I was in the best shape of my life and I felt like I was primed
Yeah.
to be great. And then like literally had one personality that I didn't mesh with, and it ruined everything, just being honest. And it was tough on you because Allie, at that point, all her friends were gone. So she's sitting at home all day. And
Yeah.
how my demeanor when I walk in the door, that's your first interaction.
Yeah. I think I kinda struggled when we had moved to Indiana, because this is still during COVID times. I mean, people aren't just out and about hanging out,
It
get-togethers all
was
the
the
time.
half and half.
Yeah, this was the half, and it was 2021.
Like you still got the masks in the glove box. Like you're ready every time you go in the grocery
No,
store.
we were very much still in COVID during
It was
2021,
deep.
Isaac.
Yeah, that's true.
But Isaac doesn't know any different because he's in and around the facility. Like, you're taking COVID tests every day. People are getting COVID, whatever. So,
It's
here I am,
crazy.
and I'm at this point, I had made so many great friends in and around LA and Orange County. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do this again. I had made one friend in Indiana and like a few other that I was like acquaintances with, or like I would say they were my friends. But I had made one best friend that, like, the person you click with, you go out to breakfast with them, you go get coffee, you can sit next to each other on the couch and you both are scrolling. This is how you know it's a good friendship. When you're sitting on the couch, you're both scrolling and you don't have to talk for 30 minutes, and then you look up and you ask a question and then the person answers in like 10 minutes. That's how you know that's a comfortable
That's a good
friendship.
marriage too, honestly. Like when you're just overstimulated and you're like,
So I
I
had
need to
made one
scroll.
friend, and Isaac's relationship with the NFL and like with his team and with his coaches at this point was really difficult on me, because it started to affect like him coming home in a bad mood, and I'm only seeing him for 2 or 3 hours, and then we're going to sleep and he's waking up and doing it all over again. And here I am trying to put my best foot forward, trying to introduce myself. I have a lot of social anxiety. Like it's a weird situation. And then I'm on TikTok, like, just yeah, like here I am.
Yeah. So it definitely was a tough time for us. And you grew a following, but you were not at the point where you would go to a team and girls would be like, "Oh my god, that's Allison Kuch. I want to get to know her."
I hit a million on New Year's.
Wow, that's crazy.
So at the end of the NFL season, I had hit a million.
I remember you hit 500 or you had 600,000 when the season started, and I remember telling a teammate, and he was like, "Dang, that's crazy. Your
But
girl
this
has
was also
600,000."
during your time at the Colts, it was kind of like pre-social media where
It was the wild, wild
I
west.
don't think teams liked social media. Even though you were making the most money, this was your worst year in the NFL from a feelings and attitude perspective, not from a playing perspective. I think you had a great year whenever you were in. You were
I was
inactive so much. Whatever.
so then we moved back to California again, like, a lot of stress on our relationship, but we're still kinda having fun with it. Who am I gonna sign with?
Yeah, and
Go to the
then you
Browns.
get signed to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns was weird because this is the first time in Isaac's career where he was like, "I probably won't make this team." And the year prior, you could make up to $3 million. The years prior, we were in Los Angeles for 4 years, and then you signed with the Cleveland Browns, and you told me you're like, "I probably won't make this team," and I was like, "Wait, this is the NFL that so many girls have talked about, and now I'm getting my first taste."
Yeah. I will say though, like, I didn't make the team, but I really liked that team. Like, I was so mad
Yeah,
when they released me. I was like, now this scenario is complicated. Like, a team that I really appreciate,
and love.
like, now I can't now I'm playing these
Yeah.
games because y'all whatever. So
Cleveland was the sneakiest team of them all because I went in thinking, "Fucking Cleveland, the orange, the
but it was fun.
barking." I love the Cleveland Browns. I loved it. I loved the girls. I liked the community. I loved our apartment. We lived across the street from like a farmer's market, which
We
you're thinking Cleveland Browns? Yeah, like Cleveland had
Ohio City.
and like the lake,
We
like
lived we lived at the intro. You can look it up. We had, like, one of the nicer units, at the intro. Like, it was great.
yeah,
The reason that we were so frustrated though, and I'll tell this very quick story. I in preseason went into preseason 4th string, bottom
yeah,
of the barrel.
thinking you're not
I ended
yeah.
up taking everybody's spot and starting preseason games, not taking Miles' spot, but like behind him as a backup, starting preseason games.
I'm like, let's remember that this podcast is about our relationship, not your
I'm
career.
sorry. Yeah, let me stop. The point is it was a fun year, but the beginning was challenging. So that year was up and down, but we
A lot of
generally
ups and downs, but
enjoyed
I mean, everything aside, we enjoyed Cleveland. We enjoyed the team, and it felt like we made some really good friends who
we
were
made
going through
great
the
friends.
same up and downs, and they lived in our apartment complex. So when
I
we
mean,
got
Josh Dobbs, you could I
so when
mean,
Isaac got released, we would go up to their apartment. When he got released, he would come down to our apartment. And it that's the part where I'm like, this is the NFL. This is family. This is like what it's all about. Is like even in these low lows, like you still find
you still
people
vibe, you
that
still
you can
vibe.
like relate to. And I
S
think that helped our relationship. But
Yeah, but everything so I got released, like, week probably 10, I got
yeah.
formally released and didn't play again for the Browns, and then the
Then you
Raiders
got a
came
call from
along.
the Raiders. And for the last, so when you get picked up off of practice squad, off of a different team, you have to go on that team for 3 games. You have to be on their active roster for 3 games. So knowing there were only 2 games left in the season, we were like,
We
bet.
were like, "We're guaranteed I'm gonna go to Vegas." I knew I wasn't really gonna play. I was like, they're bringing me in. They're not gonna just, like,
Yeah.
throw me in the fire. So I was like, "Honestly, like, this is just a
Cool.
really cool opportunity where I can't there's no loss, whatever. Let's just go enjoy it." So that was really fun. I
It
would
was a
say
lot
that
of
was, like,
fun.
fun for us.
We got oh, my mom took care of our dogs. I flew out to Vegas for 2 weeks and we had so much fun.
You didn't well, she already had a New Year's trip planned to Vegas.
Yeah.
It was crazy. You rented the Lamborghini, like, random side note, but we, like, as a relationship, it was like, "Oh, wow, these are the glory days."
Yeah.
And for both of us going into the off season with me ending on a team was, like, good juju. And I just wanna point out, like, we're telling a lot of stories about my career and our relationship, kinda, but the point is all these ups and downs that happen in your career, your relationship is like goes up and
It's
down
going
with
on the
it.
ride.
Not that we're like, "Oh, we don't wanna be together because my career is not good," but it's just like it's such an emotional drain.
Yeah. Which I'll kind of finish this podcast talking about like our identity, our community in and around the NFL. But to go back after the Las Vegas Raiders season ends, they don't go to playoffs, and Isaac and I head to our off-season home in California. And this was the first time that we had an off-season home. And this is something that I feel like was very important for our relationship, was having a home with all of our stuff. I mean, think about all of your memories, all your photos, like where you call home. This is the first time we had a home.
This is a good off
And it
season.
was a really good off season. Our friends that we had made from the Indianapolis Colts moved to California, and we had so much fun. I love this off
Short trip.
season.
That was like, and that was the first time that like, and I don't want to be lame, but that was the first time where I felt like we had like clout. I'm
Did
dead
he
serious.
just fucking say
No, I'm
that?
being honest though. It was the first off
Isaac,
season
you're
where
not getting a
like,
call from any NFL team anymore.
bruh, it was the first season where it was like, oh, come to Coachella, come to this. You're
Yeah.
going on a tart trip.
We were having
Like,
so much fun. And I just feel like we had ended with the Las Vegas Raiders on such a high. And we loved the Raiders and I loved the fan base. And it was like so much fun. And even though you were a free agent, we were just like, wait, you
we had
ended on a
hope though.
53-man roster. Like, this is great. And then, yeah, I got pregnant.
I also had workouts. So we were like, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to work out for
You had
teams.
you had
Like,
like 3 or 4 workouts. Yeah.
and then
With
I got a
different
call
teams.
the day before training
Wait,
camp to
I
go
have to
play for the
pause. If you
Raiders.
guys don't know, when you're a free agent, a team will ask you to come and work out. Sounds really weird. Like, why would you want to see like how much I bench in front of you? But it's more specifically so a team can
It's field
see.
work. It's on the field. You put
Yeah.
your cleats on. But they want to see if you're in shape. Have you been sitting around, chilling, doing
Have you
nothing?
been sitting around doing podcasts?
Listen,
Are you a little creaky?
yeah, that's the age though. That's being 29. So yeah, then I ended up signing with the Raiders the day before training camp.
Wait, I said I was pregnant. Isaac, you're forgetting that I found out I was
Oh, we have a
pregnant,
child.
which I kind of updated the whole story as it pertains to like me finding out I was pregnant, like how difficult that was going into a new football season. I talked about all that in episode 1,
Oh my
but
god,
we
the
can
OBGYN. That
what?
I don't know though, like just to kind of put a bow on this so we don't go back and forth, like I'm just thinking back. I feel like the pregnant moving in our relationship, it was chill. Like I feel like we were kind of just like YOLO, we're pregnant, like who cares? Where are
It's
we having
so
a
crazy
baby?
because the NFL does truly affect every single aspect of your life.
It's
For
everything.
me, yeah, for me, finding out I was pregnant, I was like, oh my God, this is so great. And then a few weeks later, I'm thinking, wait, where am I going to give birth? Because I'm due in December. We really, I did not think I was going to get pregnant that quick. We got pregnant literally the first time. That's TMI. I don't care. I'm TMI. But we got pregnant the first time we had ever tried to get pregnant
It was
and
like I
ended up
mean,
happening. I was like trying to get pregnant for like a February, March birth because that's the off season. So now here I am like, oh fuck. Our
yeah,
baby is
there's
due in football season. And the football season prior, my husband had lost his job and then got re-signed a few weeks later to a different place, a different state. So here I am thinking like, oh fuck.
yeah.
You missed a few OBGYN appointments. I had to find a new OBGYN,
The only OBGYN appointment I missed was the anatomy scan.
which is probably the most important one.
Well, it is what it
Yeah,
is.
she's
She's
here now.
here
We
healthy.
can check out her anatomy whenever we want. That sounds weird. When you are a couple in the NFL, so many people are quick to think it's only going to affect the guy. The ups and downs are only on him. It's quite the opposite. It's more so the ups and downs are so much on me because Isaac's going to go into his job every day and he's going to practice and he's going to work out and he's going to go to games. And like, yes, he has identity in the NFL, but so do I. And I
Yeah.
think so many people not forget, but they're just kind of ignorant to it or they think it doesn't really matter. And up until this point, our entire adult relationship has been in and around the NFL. And that's where we have found identity, community, our friends who have
Yeah.
turned into family. That's who we spend every holiday with because the
You don't have a
NFL is
choice.
over holidays. So every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. And so right now, when all of our friends are in the NFL and hanging out and going to games and like you see all these team get togethers, it makes me really fucking sad. I mean, I'm just going to be very honest. It makes me so sad because I think back to their time with the Chargers and I just don't feel like I took advantage enough. I mean, I know I did, but I'm just so sad because there's a chance you might never play again.
Yeah,
And it
I'm
makes me
sad now
really
thinking about it.
I
This
don't
is
want
gonna
to think
send us
that.
into a spiral.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
The issue
I
though
think that
is
during NFL training camp was really hard because you see all these guys going and like working their asses off to get a job. Now, training camp, if you go unsigned throughout training camp, there's a 50-50 chance that you get a call.
it goes down. There's just so much more that goes into it. It's just ridiculous. But here's the thing. Allie hit the nail on the head. You said so much of our identity has to do with football. In our 10 years of being together, our lives, the structure of our lives, the structure of our relationship has 100% been centered around a football season. You have your in season, you have your out of season. Your friends are centered around football. All this stuff is around football.
Yeah.
And that has been our
Even your
relationship.
birth is centered around football.
So literally, this is the first time in our entire relationship, as 3.5 years married people, where it's like it's not around that. So it is
It's kind of been
crazy.
like a huge identity crisis for you, and, for me, I feel like a little bit of an identity crisis, not that I
I think it's been
identify.
much harder for you,
I
like
It's
way harder.
it's so hard for me to describe though because I don't put my identity. I'm not an NFL wife. I don't. I've actually prided myself on not being an NFL wife so much that I feel like my identity has became like, oh,
Anti
that's
NFL
no,
wife.
but that's the NFL wife. Whenever people think of an NFL wife, I would assume that sounds like braggy,
No,
but
because
I would
like Taylor Swift's
assume
not married, so
no, but I just assume that when people think of the NFL and like women in and around the NFL would assume that they put me in their head. If not, fuck me. Never mind.
no,
So
it's
it's weird because I want to like I still love sports. I mean, I love this podcast and I will not stop this podcast or talking about sports or being interested in sports because my husband might be a free agent. But it's weird because it's like all of these things that have happened the past 7 years are not happening right now. And I think even more so, I had a baby. We were renovating our house. So like a bunch of things are changing my identity and it feels like too much fucking change at once. And
like
it
overstimulated, but it's real life.
yeah, like, how many people go through an identity crisis when they have a baby? Imagine you have a baby and then you move out of your house that's your home, and then you're living in a different state, and then your husband doesn't have a job that he's had for the past 7 years, and that's your community and all your friends,
Mm.
and it's just like, "Oh, fuck."
Are you
So
okay?
honestly, no. I need to go and pick
That
up my
was like that
prescription.
escalated. Yeah, I'm like, what the how do you say it? Wellbutrin? How are we talking
Wellbutrin.
about? No, but it is tough, and
But I'm tired of people telling me I can't be fucking sad because my husband's not on a team. It's less of the that sounds really,
no,
really
I would play for
privileged.
free. It's not about
It's
the money.
not
It really is
they
community.
when they say money doesn't buy happiness, I think it buys happiness up to a point. Like I think like having your basic needs met is very important. I heard that on a podcast. I think that's important, but I think when it comes to like I would rather Isaac be on a team right now I'm playing for free than not be on well, obviously, but they're both free. You both aren't making
You know
money.
the beauty of it though? Yeah, right. Duh, we'd
Right now,
rather
you're
be
not
playing.
making money.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And like even being able to sit down and do this is nice. So basically, we need you guys to leave a comment and we need you guys to give it a 5 star.
No, we don't
But
need you.
I feel like that is our I mean, I feel like we're there. We're at a close of this.
A close of what?
Like we've told them everything.
Oh, I thought you meant a close of your career. I thought you were, like, ready to
I'm
announce you're
like
retiring. I was like, "Wait, hold on. Can I talk
I
about
will
you
say
then?"
this. This would be the last thing that I will say on this entire podcast. Our lives would probably be easier if I retired. Right now, putting ourselves in a position where we are waiting and we're subjecting ourselves to these emotions is really hard, but that's how much we love football. If I
I was gonna say, "Do
retired,
you wanna retire?"
no, I don't. I love football, but if I retired, it'd be like, okay, bet. Literally, like I'm Allie's assistant and producer. Sorry, Annie. Okay. No, thank you for having me on.
Wait, whoa, that was a big mic drop, Isaac. Yeah, I think that our lives would be easier if you retired, but I think that I can speak for the both of us saying that I think we would both like the idea of you having 1, 2, any amount of games just to know like this game might be your last.
Yeah, but that's the
I would
beauty of the NFL. You
love
don't know.
to tie up our NFL journey in as it pertains to our relationship with this bow of us having our daughter and bringing her to a game. I mean, I'm gonna try and call every GM just to get this bow that I
Y-
keep talking about.
All right, I could keep going, but I don't. I will lose track. And
I'm just gonna I'll put it up as this. Our relationship throughout the NFL has had highs and lows, and all the highs have directly correlated with the highs of the NFL, and all the lows have directly correlated with the lows of the NFL. but I
That's
would
scary.
not trade it for anything.
It all happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason, and I think that's the
And
best way to describe the NFL. Everything happens for a
I'm
reason.
waiting on this reason of not being signed, but we'll keep waiting.
But we thought who would ever cut a guy when his wife is 2 weeks postpartum, and now we're super grateful that we were here in California for that. So I feel like maybe in the future we're gonna look back at this time and be like, I'm super grateful that you were not on a team.
What would we have to talk about on this podcast if we didn't do this?
Anyways, if you guys have any questions as it pertains to me and Isaac's relationship, feel free to send us a DM, send us an email, however you want to get in contact with us. And maybe in the future we'll do another relationship and football Q&A, because I feel like there are so many things we can talk about when it comes to our relationship as it pertains to football. But I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast.
Allie, you didn't ask me.
What?
You're supposed to say, where can they find you?
Where can they find you, Isaac?
At Isaac Rochelle. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, that's my at name.
Oh, we're about to change that to Isaac Kuch when he retires. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to tune in every Sunday and Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next time. Well, no, we won't see you next time. I'll see you next time because Isaac's not on this podcast officially.
Okay, bye.